So how has it been? Have you been to a temple yet?
No, not yet. Like I said, I was out of the country
Yeah, you were in
last week.
wedding anniversary, wedding somewhere or whatever,
I'm hoping this weekend.
Oh,
It's
okay, this
unfortunate.
week.
The only ones are so far away from me. It takes a long time to get there, but
All right. Okay.
I will.
Whereabouts is that?
Well, if I'm gonna the ones we were talking about are in Scarborough or Richmond Hill. So
Okay.
I'm in Oshawa, so it's like I don't know,
Yeah, okay.
45 minutes maybe.
Yeah, that's correct. That's correct. So let's talk about the rituals and carry on that,
Hmm.
and tell you some more about our Hindu beliefs. Ism, say Hinduism as ism is not the right word for Hindu because it's not really any type of ism or whatever. However, let me tell you this that uh, as you can understand, as we have been talking for last few weeks, there is no strict binder about what one has to do or what one has not to do and what must one believe and what must not believe. You must have understood by now that it's a very flexible and a very adaptable or changeable sort of belief system that we have. And as such, everybody wants to believe in what wants to believe. And this is how there have become so many deities and gods and goddesses in our system. Everybody knows, everyone who's a Hindu knows that there is only one God and he is the prime supreme and there's nothing beyond. But yet, we would like to concentrate or meditate on such and such form of the God. And then there's nothing that stops you from doing it. One believes what one believes, and they get into it. And this is how and why there are so many deities that are there. Also, understand that we have a word called Devata. Now, Devata, literally translated into English, would mean a deity. The Devata word comes from the word of someone who gives. Whoever gives or provides you with something is a Devata. So we would even say that my father is a Devata because he has given me birth. So you could use it that way. But what happens is this that we understand that all powers in the universe or in the system comes from God and are distributed to various power sources that then provide us those things in their own form. So let's say sun is one of them that is created. Then it gives us light, it gives us life, it gives us a lot of things, warmth and everything. Similarly, moon is another one that gives us the coolness or it gives the sweetness in the fruit, the flowers, and everything else that is provided by us. Wind is one of them, fire is another one, rain is something like that. So we start calling all of them as sun devta, moon devta, rain devta, like that. So because it gives us something and it is something that should be respected. Every devta is something that should be respected. I can always in my house build a small little photograph statue of sun, sort of showing the sun as bodily form or a human form that has hands, arms, everything else. Typically, they make those pictures with a sun, sort of a human sun form that is rising, that is riding a um, um, uh, chariot that is driven by 7 horses. So that imbibes like 7 days of the week because it has 7 horses and it is riding that 7 horses. If I make a picture like this and I keep it in my house and I make a sort of a a statue like that and want to keep it with me. And then I start worshipping it, or thinking this is God and I want to meditate on it, and through this I will reach the Supreme. Nothing stops you from doing it. Everyone has a right to do what they want to do. Similarly, when there are stories about how the creation is made, how there is one God, and the God has got feminine and a male and a feminine, both sorts of format or power into it, I might like to worship only the feminine part because that is motherly, that gives me birth. The entire universe is born out of a feminine format. So, you know what? Nothing stops me from worshipping a goddess and saying that this is what I want to pay for and worship. This is how, in Hindu belief, people have started or people worship whatever they want to worship. So you will find the temples that are there, and they have multiple deities in them. Everyone is equally worshipped as the other one, equally valuable or respectful as the other one. So this is what has happened in this system because it is very, very free. Tomorrow, if Daniel wants to figure out some sort of a thing, and he says, you know what, this is what looks like godly figure to me, and he starts worshiping it, then Daniel opens a temple of his own where he worships this day. And there are 10, 12 people who come and attend it on every Sunday or Saturday or Friday. That will become a recognized sort of a format in the next 10, 20, 30 years. You might have multiple temples built on that. Nothing stops you. Nothing stops you. There is no fight or quarrel in between any of these. They are all unison. Everybody understands everything. We respect this one, we respect that one, we respect everyone. And yet, you can be a true, pure, 100% Hindu if you never visit any temple at all in all your life. This is a very, very complex sort of a belief system. The people who are not within the system, are not sort of born and brought up in it, don't understand it easily. Because in every other system, there is a diktat that you must do this, you must do that, you must do that. We don't have a diktat. You must be a good human being. That's only one what we ask you to be. And comes from everything else that the nature teaches us. So this is how the whole belief system is built. From here comes what we believe as our rituals and other things that we follow. So if you would go to a temple, some temples will start doing lighting up light, sort of a lamp, small little lamp. They would do with the oil and fire, wick and oil and fire. Then they will hold that in their hand and take it around the deity just to do prayers or chant some mantras along with it, or even have a bell in their hand, small bell, and ring it also. So you will see all these things going on if you go to it, if you visit them and see what they're doing. There is no restrictions to what you must do. The lighting of a lamp is symbolic to inviting light, bright, or uh, knowledge into your life. Light represents knowledge. This is when the darkness is gone. So, darkness of not knowing or darkness of ignorance is gone when light is there. So, light represents knowledge. Light also represents everything that is bright and life. We do not believe in blowing the candles on a cake. Blowing the candles means you are inviting darkness, taking away the light. We believe in enlightening, putting the lights on. So typically, you will see that we would light up a lamp or whatever, and then we would start our prayers. Prayers would have multiple mantras, as people like to recite mantras, but there are many prayers that are in simple and plain language as well. You can find prayers in English language as well in the Hindu belief right now. Most of them would be either in Hindi language or they could be in simplified Sanskrit language or they could be borrowed from the Vedas and such books as well. Whatever mantras one likes, one recites, one speaks. Every sort of a community within the Hindus have formed their own system and their own things. They do what they want to do. This is what happens when you are in a temple or you visit some place that has deities in it, and you will see various things happening. The bell is a sign of a sound that resonates in the atmosphere around you and helps you meditate. If you ring a bell, if you have a bigger size bell, and if you ring a bell, the bell sound echoes and it goes on sort of resonating for a few more seconds than the bell. That what it does is that in your mind or in your ears, sorts of creates that sort of a vacuum which helps you concentrate or meditate, and then you don't let your thoughts go here and there. That's what the sound of a bell does. So we ring the bell, though in a temple, if you go back home in India, you would see very huge, like 3 feet, 4 feet size big bells. And they ring those bells and it makes a dong sound that goes on for the next minute or 2 minutes. And that's what sort of helps you to clear your thoughts away from your mind and meditate on the prayer or whatever you're saying. As I had told you earlier, that none of our prayers are for me, my, and I. Every prayer that we have is always us, for the whole community, for the whole mankind. We never pray for my personal self. It is not there. I mean, I might be doing it at my home or I might speak it out, but we don't have those prayers, such to so to say. So we believe that the whole world or the whole community or the entire system, mankind is one. Everyone benefits. I also benefit. If everyone is having problems, then I'm also having problems. So this is what we believe in. Now, typically, let me tell you and explain to you why do we do a fire oblations. We have a typical form and size made out of a metallic uh, piece that we do the uh, form the fire thing on it. Now it's ascribed as to so much big and so much so the size and all. I'll explain that to you someday also when it's a little more complex. Well, what we do in it is typically we would put some wood in it and we would light the fire. The wood needs to be dry. We do have some prescribed wood that this wood should be. Typically, a mango tree's wood is the best. Then there are other so many trees that are prescribed that you can use this tree, this tree, this tree, this tree. Some 40, 50 different or 60 different types of trees. Wood must be dry. It must not have any fungus or insects or anything else in it. It must be clean, dry, nice wood. In the earlier systems, we used to believe that the trees that have befallen by its own through these storms or wood or aging or whatever should be the trees that should be cut and brought home like that. We did not believe in chopping off or cutting off the trees. Now, this type of a wood would be used to light the fire. Typically, when we would say the mantras, we would put three woods into the fireplace. Three pieces, so to say. The three pieces represent one, the prana or the breath that every one of us breathes. The second one is the wind or the air. And the third one is the energy or the fire or whatever type of energy. This is what we represent when we put the three woods first, chanting the mantras, of course, along with it. Why we put these three woods first is because we believe that in the outer space of the blue atmosphere that I had spoken to you about, outer space first starts creating the universe with these three powers. First power is the breath that is provided by the God. There has to be life or a breath there. Second is the wind that provides the movement all around. The third is every type of energy, radioactivity, fire, whatever you want to call it. This is what is the first creation that's how it starts. And after the manus, the basics of the atoms have started interacting with each other. This is the first formation. So we represent this first and we put it in the fire. Why do we light the fire and we put these three woods in it? Why do we do this? This activity is called YAGYA. I told you last time. It is called Yajna. YAGYA. Yajna. Yajna is a word that means doing something which is selfless and contributing it to the benefit of the whole mankind, society, nature, world, whatever you. That is the meaning of that word. Also, what it means is that associating with those who are knowledgeable or associate yourself with knowledge and being one with the knowledge provided to you by the Creator. And the third meaning of the yajna within the word is donate or to give away or to give. So these three things are in the word yajna. Now we believe that when the creation is made, this is what represents the yajna of the Creator. He is the one who is doing the exercise or the labor or the hard work creating the universe, creating the whole system for us to benefit out of it. Everything we get, whatever we get in our lives, is from the system that He has created. Whether it is our pleasures with food, our properties, money, whatever you get, including the knowledge, including the in-depth, deep knowledge that you gain from it, the good health that you get from it, everything is from this creation that He makes. And He makes this creation not for His own self. He never uses any of it. It is always for the better of the world. Similarly, He is donating so much to us beyond our apprehensions. What we can't even know what all He is donating to us. So He's giving it to us. And then He's always spreading the knowledge that we gain. Everything we do in our lives, we get knowledge. So we call this activity of His as He is performing yajna. Represent that we perform yajna in our daily lives. We represent it, we remember Him, and we do the same thing so that we can do good to us. When we burn those three woods, it is from those specified uh, trees. They are already known to be those woods which are good for the nature, which when burnt are good for the nature. The smoke is good for the nature. It does not hurt the nature. Then we on that wood pure clarified butter, which is called the ghee. Ghee, ghee. You might have seen it in Indian stores or wherever. We use a thing called ghee. Now the ghee cannot be impure, cannot be created from anything else other than the cow's milk in a very purest form of how to make it. Typically, uh, once a butter is made, then the butter is put on the heat and clarifies, got the fats that sit down and the liquid juice that comes up on top. That liquid juice is the ghee. We take out yellowish in color and it has its own smell. And that is what we take out and call ghee. Fat portion below is fat portion to be used for whatever fats you want to use in food, but it's not used as ghee. So that ghee primarily is not containing the fat solids. but it is clarified butter made out of butter. Now, ghee is supposed to be the best agent we burnt and sent into the atmosphere for purification and cleansing. If we perform, everyone performs ghee puja every day, there would be no environmental pollution at all. Because the particles of ghee, when they go into the atmosphere after evaporating, are the particles that would grab the pollution, multiple parts of pollution for one part of that burnt ghee, and they would bring that down heavily to the earth. This is how the cleansing happens when we put the ghee in the fire or in the wood. Fire is used as a representative of something that keeps nothing to itself. Fire does not keep anything for itself. It consumes and burns everything and gives it away or spreads it out in the atmosphere or in the nature. Fire does not keep anything for itself. If a wood is burnt in the fire, it will turn into a small little smoke atom that will be spread out in the nature and go back to where it came from, nature. Similarly, everything you do in the fire is not for itself, it's spread out. So fire spreads it out very, very quickly. It's all over everywhere. So when we chant our mantras, we use the three pieces of wood and then we put on the fire. The ghee excites the fire and keeps the fire on. What also happens then is when we start forming further, because we know that only three will not be sufficient, then we have, like, some people have up to 7 pieces, some people have up to 18 pieces. It depends upon how long you want to keep doing the yajna. Along with that, we also have a mixture of herbs, dried herbs, that we put in the fire. Now, the prescribed herbs, herbs would also have a mixture of the cow shit, the dried cow shit in them also. Dried cow shit and herbs. The herbs prescribed that if this is the disease going on, this type of herb should be burned. So in the whole community, the disease would be cleaned, atmosphere would be clean. So and so, if there are no rains, you should be forming these type of herbs. Go up to the clouds and the rains are, they seed the crowd and the rains will come. Similarly, there are, like, I don't know, about 140 applications of these different type of herbs that could be used in the fire. So while we are performing it with the ghee, we are also putting these herbs in the fire and keeping the fire on. In the fire, typically the mantras that we read, would none of them would be anything for me when I ask with the mantra that I'm offering this to the fire so that this herbs and ghee can go in the atmosphere and cure every human being. So that is the feeling, and that's how we put it in. Or we say this is the mantra that we are performing and putting it in so that people benefit and they become, have enough wealth or enough money so that there is no poor person in the world. That's how we perform our first oblation of fire, which is called the yajna. Now, while we perform the yajnas, it is said that every household every day morning should perform the yajnas. Ideally, that's how we believe it. Though I don't think people do it now at all, but ideally we believe that. That's how it should be done. Typically, in a house in Canada, this would be very difficult to do. The house is already closed and you have those fire alarms and all those things. But houses in India are not encapsulated or closed like this. We have open areas and it's easy to. Another thing is this, that while these yajnas are performed, we also have various things for various our own lives, various times in our lives. Let me put it this way. There are 16 different, we call it samskaras, that are prescribed for human beings after they are born. These are not the samskaras you are born with. These are samskaras that are being put onto a human being, ascribed to a human being that should be done. For example, the entire lifetime, that is. For example, the first samskara would begin before a child is born. So when a mother has already conceived, that is when the first samskara will be there. It will be chanting of the relevant mantras, forming a yajna, wishing the best of the health and a good life for child that is to be born, good health to the mother to deliver the child, and praying that the child be fulfilled with all the desires he has come to this earth with. Second one would be when the child is really physically born at birth. We have names for all of them. We have different mantras for all of them. A little bit different ritual for all of them. Then there will be the third one, known as the naming ceremony, when we would name the child. Typically, we would not have a name for the child before the child is born. We do not go to hospitals with the name of the child already there. It is considered inauspicious on the speak. We say when the child is born, we look at the child, we see what the child looks like, what are the realities of the child's, what should we say, um, his characteristics as we can understand from his birth. And thus we give a name to the child. Child's name is not given before the child. So we would have a naming ceremony.
Sorry, the name sort of comes from like the inherent characteristics that soul brought into the world. Is that how it works?
To a large extent, and to a certain extent also from the time or the day he's born. If he's born in the evening, the name would be like evening name or a sundown name, or if he's born in the morning, or if it's a rainy season, or if it's these things like this also are there and imbibed. Certain times also the type of parentage he has. So these things will be considered when the child would be named. Of course, there'll be a different name for a man, boy child and a girl child. So all these things are considered. So there will be a naming ceremony. We've already had three ceremonies. So one is before the child is born, one is when the child is born, the naming ceremony. Then there is the fourth ceremony when the first time the child would be given solid eat. So till now the child has been eating on mother's milk, but when the first day when they will put whatever solid rice or whatever soft food or whatever is there in the mouth, that will be the next ceremony at that. All of these times they will be performing yajnas, there'll be different type of mantras, there'll be a little different rituals, and they'll putting the food in the child's mouth while performing the yajna. And also whatever they put in the child's mouth, a little bit of it would also be put in the fire as a contribution given out to everybody, to nature or everything else. So this is how things would be going on. After this, the next one would be when the child would be a little bigger. So he's now going to the school or going for education. There'll be another one. After that, there will be the thread ceremony that is done to every child at that time. After the thread ceremony, there would be the ceremony when the child has come out of college or school and is starting his own business, job, whatever he's doing. So there'll be one at that time. Next one will be at the marriage or wedding. So there'll be a marriage ceremony and the wedding ceremony and all these things and the rituals and all these things are followed with different mantras, different rituals. Next one, after this, obviously, when the child has now got married, there will be different things going on because of his own family life and he will now be having children. So those will be there and will go on. The last one, final, is the funeral or when the person is dead. Then there is a different one that we perform at that Typically, we would do one which is on the fourth day after death. But it's believed that on the fourth day after the death, the soul has totally departed, gone away to wherever it has to now go. So, this is how mostly ritual have been planned around a human being's life that goes on. These are called the 16 of them actually. So we call them Sola Sanskar, 16 samskaras. But other than this, there are always ritual attached with the festivals. So when we have a festive season or festival, there will be a ritual and there will be similar prayers and everything else also. We uh, we believe that there are 6 seasons in a year. We don't have the divide of 3 or 4 seasons. We have a divide of 6 seasons. If you live in India, you will feel the 6 different seasons surely there. So every 2 months, the season would change. Season's beginning would also be a ritual inviting the season. And then within the season, there would be different festivals or celebrations. Uh, I would say that every month or almost every month, approximately 8 to 10 major festivals are there all throughout the year. People celebrate. And then reduce from there, 2 or 3 or 4 main are there that everyone does all over the country. Even in the busy life today, they still follow them. Now, these rituals, many of them are not a single day ritual. Some of them would have 2 days before, 2 days after, a 5 day ritual, they will go on. We do it this on the first day, this on the second day, this is the main one is this. And then this we do, and then this we do like that. There are also rituals which celebrate married pair, whichever married pair is there in the community, village, in the town. So many people who are married and are married pairs, there is a celebration day or a night for those married people and prayers and rituals performed. Wish them a happy ongoing married life. Similarly, there are ones for students, and then or the whole community or the whole town or the whole village. So those become the rituals. Then there is a ritual, there are 2 rituals in the year which are typically a brother and sister ritual. When the brother and sisters, even if they are married and they're staying away, they should get together at least once a year or twice a year. They meet up together at least and they perform those rituals which are brother sister. So this way, there are multiple rituals that are followed. But then there are rituals that are performed typically in the temples for the deities. So I'm offering my prayers. So my offering of my prayers, I want to offer this. Whatever I want to offer, I want to give away this. Giving away is a form that is believed to be multiplying it in your life, or you're receiving it becomes multiply more than what you're giving. So it's believed that if I am going to give certain amount of rice and pulses and coconuts and food items that I'm donating away or I'm giving away, it is in a way to say that I'm going to receive multiple times more in my life. You will find, I have seen it myself, that there will be people who even donate gold. There are people in India, there are multiple people who donate gold or precious money or cash or whatever they want to, and they donate. Because it's believed that when you donate, you receive much more. So this is the uh, concept of giving away. As I told you in Yajya, one of the form was to give away or to donate. So this is what the form of donate is. So when I perform prayers in the temple or something, I would always offer something. even if it is as small as a $2 coin, but I will offer something always. And it's supposed to be an offering I'm giving away. Not this is a habit that we sort of form into us that I'm giving away so that I don't think everything only belongs to me. I'm not grasping, taking things from people. I'm in the habit of giving away. So this is what is typically formed. These are all rituals that have been formed, and there are multiple rituals that each and every community, village, society themselves have devised, and they follow it. That we follow this, we follow that because of this, because whatever is the cause, they do it. Also, in different regions of the country, different people would be performing different rituals. People living on the seashore side would have rituals for the sea, for a sea god, so to say. That is how most of the rituals are. But almost all the rituals will have ask a person before they perform a ritual, sort of take a bath in the morning, clean up yourself, be fresh, wear fresh clothes, and not eat anything till you perform the ritual. Because empty stomach is the best time when you can offer something to the god or meditate, not with full stomach. But typically, they'll be done empty stomach. Now, there are rituals that are done late evenings and night. So, not expected that everybody would be empty stomach, but there are people who do fasting the whole day so that they can pray in the evening and they don't eat anything. But then there are many people who would consume food because they don't want to stay hungry the whole evening, but they would freshen up again in the evening and come and perform. But typically, cleanliness goes with that. That you're keeping yourself clean and also you're keeping the place clean wherever you're going to perform the ritual. Even if it is your home or the temple or whatever it is, you're cleaning it up. Cleanliness is part of the ritual. Personal cleanliness and the local area cleanliness. After you're clean, we would also have typically what we call a thing or a spot that we put in the forehead here. There's a place that is known as a third eye on the forehead. A small depression in the center here. That is typically known as a third eye place. Most of the times, the third eye spot would have sandalwood paste that would be applied there. We would take a sandalwood piece, rub it on the stone, and mix with water a little bit so that we get a bit of a paste of the. That is what is applied on the forehead center here. Why we apply it here is because this part here, when you apply something, it impacts your brain and your thinking immediately, or the state of mind almost immediately. Sandalwood provides coolness or calmness, or serenity. So, sandalwood is something they would put on the center of the head so that thinking, mind, everything stays cool, calm, quiet. You're not disturbed. The thoughts are not coming in and going out and coming in and going out all the time while you're performing a ritual or a prayer. So, sandalwood calms your mind. That is why that thing is put on your forehead. So, before we begin the prayer, before you begin the yajna, before you begin anything, you form a little bit of a sandalwood spot on the center that will impact your thinking, your mind, state of mind. So this is what the sandalwood would do when we put it on. Other than the sandalwood, they would also have to ask you many a time, take a little bit of water in your right arm, and with a small little mantra or a vow, they would ask you to drink vows that we take, which is I today vow that I'm going to be a student, or I vow that I accept this woman as my wife, or I vow that I'm going to lead a good life, or I vow that I'll not speak a lie ever in my life. All the vows are taken with a little bit of water and we drink it quickly because water provides us life. So when we take a vow because of water, We know that we are never going to do this wrong ever because we have taken a vow. And the water is something that is purest in its nature, and it gives us life in various forms. So we take the vows with the water. We speak out the vow that I vow that I'm going to be this, and we drink the water. Typically, we do it 3 times. So the vow will be repeated 3 times, and water will be taken 3 times. 3 times so that I remember it. Sometimes even a single vow, or if I want to take 3 vows, I might take it 3 vows once each. So whatever it is, that is the way a ritual is performed. So if I was to induct you into Hindu belief, I would ask you to put that vow when we are doing yajna, little bit of water in your hand, and you drink the water like this, and you say that I vow from now onwards that I will be following the Hindu belief. So that's how we would do it typically. And 3 times you would do it, or whatever you would do. These are typically the rituals that we follow. Again, very flexible. Everybody has a right to whatever they want to do. They think this should be done, they think that should be done. All the rituals done in this manner. Very, very typically, the rituals will have, all of them would have a reasoning behind it. They will be nature friendly. They would never be against the normal nature. And they would all never be hurting anything in the nature. So they cannot be hurting the atmosphere around. They can't hurt any other living being. They cannot hurt any other man or human being or whatever. We do not have curses. We do not have ill wills. We don't have any of them in our prayers or rituals or anything. This is how the system is built. Now, if you go to some temples, you'll see more of these rituals and you will see certain things happening yourself. And then you will say, why was this done or why is that done and how it is, and that's how. So that may be there. Will bring questions in your mind, and then you can always ask me about it. But whatever I have explained to you till now, if you have any questions, ask.
Yeah, I had a couple questions. The first was, right. Okay, so you were talking about how rituals, it seems like sort of how you pursue it is a bit of an open book, right? A lot of different people have established different ways, and there's some common rituals, but there seems to be quite a bit of flexibility. And you talked a little bit about how like somebody could just go start their own, and assuming that they're pursuing it for the right reasons, that they can adopt followers, and this can be part of the whole movement. I'm assuming, as long as it's in pursuit of some sort of spiritual enlightenment or something like this. But my question is there some extra credence to rituals that have more history? Meaning, I can come up with something tomorrow, and some people might like it, but is there something that suggests, oh, this has been done for thousands of years? There's a little extra weight to it. The fact that so many other people have used this ritual, that's my question. Or is it everything is just the same? It's the from where you're doing it, from which the spirit you're doing it.
The weightage does not matter. It's important to you, it's important to you. I will give you an example. There are certain communities that in the last, I would say, 20, 30, 40 years have adopted planting of trees as a ritual. So what they have done is that on the following day, each one of us are going to plant 100 new trees. Now, I may not be able to go and plant a tree, but I will donate. I will donate seeds, I will donate tree saplings, or if nothing is there, I will donate the funds. And I will find volunteers who will volunteer for the village and they'll do like 5,000 trees or whatever it is. So this is as some community has done it. And then again the same thing. They would start with the prayer in the morning, they would do the yajnas, they'd clean up themselves, get together as a community, and then they'll start doing the ritual of planting the trees. So these things can always happen. Again, there was about, I would say, I don't know, maybe 300, 200, 500 years ago, that they had got together and they would start digging the wells. So they would say that on this part of the year, we will form a little community group, that is volunteers, and we will go from different village to different village to different village and we'll dig the wells for them. It's a ritual we will follow. So in one year, we will do 12 or 10 villages. The next year, we'll do another 10 villages. It depends on what you want to do. As long as it is good for the community and it's good for people in general, it does not hurt the nature. Adapting a ritual like this, there's nothing that stops.
Okay, and one more question. You talked a little bit about how there's this idea of giving and receiving. As you give, you're gonna get back. So you give whatever. I think you used the example of rice. You donate X amount of rice. You get, yeah. The idea is that you'll end up getting that back. And I'm wondering if the sort of getting it back is in the karmic sense or it's in like the material sense.
Karmic sense.
Karmic sense. So you're
It's
not
always,
expecting like 6 bags of rice on your
no,
doorstep.
no, no, no.
Right.
It's always in the karmic
Yeah,
sense.
okay. Yeah, it's really interesting. I really like the sort of the life milestones, rituals tied to life milestones is it's like a wonderful way to split up life. And the idea of 6 seasons, I guess part of it is the climate is just different there than it is here.
Yes.
And so you might experience like many more distinct changes because I know there's like a really big rainy season and things like this. And so just the fact that this started in India and the rituals developed around the environment in which they started. There's 6 distinct seasons that you could notice that you might not notice it in southern Ontario.
That's very true. Also, you see, understand that like we have in Canada, what we call the Thanksgiving Day. It's like the end of the farming season.
Yeah, right,
So it's one of the celebrations that we have when it's the end of the farming season. What are we doing? We are
right,
giving thanks to the God
right,
because He has given us so much of farming.
right,
Similar things, there are similar seasons, similar rituals are there.
right. Yeah, and same thing with Christmas and Easter are right around the solstice. So when the actual seasons change, like the length of the day
Yes,
are
correct.
now, so the
That's correct.
transition times, right?
Yes. Longest day and the shortest day we celebrate.
Yeah, or the
Yeah.
and the transition periods when we go from, okay, they're going to continually get longer and now they're going to continually get shorter. When we hit that transition, we tend to celebrate. And yeah, it makes sense. To prehistoric us before modern technology, that stuff meant so much more to people.
Yeah,
It meant like what we're going to be doing for the next 2 months is going to completely change.
yeah, that's correct.
Because this is we're completely connected to nature in that way. We're not so connected to nature anymore.
That's very correct. Actually, whatever is not in tune with the nature would end up in trouble. It will somehow or the other impact the humans, the communities, everybody else, or the whole world, and end up in some sort of a chaos or problem or whatever it is, because it will
Hmm.
become a nothing problem to us. See, this is the whole thing.
Yeah, I mean, and it's interesting. A lot of people, particularly recently, are starting to identify that disconnect as what's causing some of the people's problems today. It's like you'll read an article like once a week about going to some green space and it helps with anxiety and depression. It's like go. I think the Japanese do like forest bathing, where it's like you just go and you walk in a forest,
It
you know,
makes
and
a
that
lot of difference.
yeah,
No,
that connection.
there's a country called Bhutan, if you ever
I
have
know.
known about it.
Yeah, I know.
Now, my family and I, we used to live in Calcutta in those days, which is in Bengal, in the eastern part of India. One of the top busiest industrial cities in India, and it's a big commercial center with large population, lot of crowd, everything. Whatever you feel in Calcutta living there, we would travel and we went into the mountains just to spend a holiday. And from there, we drove into Bhutan. Of course, has a different country. There's a check and an entry point and everything else. You need your papers, whatever. So we went into Bhutan to spend about 6, 7 days in Bhutan. Of course, Bhutan does not have any industrialization at all. Bhutan has not much cars or road problems of buses and all these things, so there's no pollution or whatever it is. We entered Bhutan, and in about 2 or 3 hours after we entered Bhutan, and we are in the hills all the time, we could breathe and understand a total different type of air. Feel the freshness or the smell of that fresh oxygen was totally different
Hmm.
from what it was back in Calcutta.
Hmm.
Those 5 days, I would say, gave us so much of good health by just breathing that air. That would have been good for the next 3, 4 years.
Hmm.
It's so beautiful to just breathe in that air. Leave aside everything else. Just breathe.
Hmm.
The water, of course, is fresh because it is fresh and good water. And if you know this thing, it is scientifically proven that the mountains and the fresh water that comes from the mountains through these stones and everything else, or the waterfalls, always has certain amounts of minerals in it, which are good to consume for a human body. And you don't take those minerals away by filtering them or taking them away, but it's good for a human body. It's the same thing. Those few days in nature make so much of difference to a human being. If we don't
And,
pollute, we'll all be good.
and we have a great opportunity. I mean, where we live, we're quite close to the ability to get away from that. You know,
That's
it's
true.
not too
That's
far
very
away.
true. It's very close to go. Just 100 kilometers here and there, and you are very happy.
You can get quite isolated quite quickly.
Yes, you get quite isolated. Yes, that's correct. Any other questions?
No, that's all. That's all I got for today. I think. Yeah.
Arunaji, do you have any questions? You've been giving very patient listening.
No, I just wanted to ask, I wanted to say that we got cut off from our original tradition, which was very much in tune with nature, our life, our living. Everything was in tune, synchronized with nature. But after industrial revolution, a different system by our invaders, also a different system was introduced. So what would have been the best solution for that? Because we cannot avoid industrialization also,
Right.
but what would have been the best solution? That is what I was thinking. Can you put some light on that?
Well, I believe that there was industrialization even before the modern concept of industrialization is there, because everything was there. We used to manufacture weaponry, we used to manufacture chips, we used to manufacture everything. If you go back to the history of 6, 7, 8,000 years ago in India, we had the best quality ships that were manufactured anywhere in the world. So these things were there. Obviously, some sort of industrialization was there, but the I don't know that what is the right answer because I'm not an expert on it. But probably the usage of chemicals in a way that we do today, or the uh, way that we manufacture things today was not there. It was different. We had kept the nature in mind more than anything else. If you keep nature in mind and you do things as per the nature, best would be to friendly nature. It would best as it would be to the nature friendly character. That's what was done and practiced in those days. If you go by the mantras in Rig Veda and Atharva Veda, they tell you very clearly that you mix this with this and you get this product which is good for this. Similarly, it gives you a principle how to make steam engines, gives you a principle how you should make aeroplanes and fly it. So when we use those ideas and principles, obviously they do not contaminate the nature and they don't hurt the mankind. Those were there always. They still are there. We don't follow it or we don't understand it. It is not, we have lost that knowledge. It was there always.
Mhm.
Yeah, I
Right.
think a big part of it is when people are removed from the output of their work. So when you work for a large company, you're 7 steps removed from the output of that company. You're doing one small piece. And so the company's output has this devastating impact on the environment, but you're not directly tied to that. So you contribute to it without seeing the impact of your action. And so that allows us to collectively do a million bad things without anybody realizing that they contributed to the collective problem, or at least not, they'll realize it, but they won't think about it in the moment. And so I think that's a large part of it. We're just so removed from the output of everything that we do. It's so weird for me to think what I do for a living turns into food on my plate is such an abstract thing now. It's like, that literally goes through probably like 1,000 steps before I eat, and it's makes it so hard to live your life in connection to nature when all of it is so far removed from you. Um, it's
You
a
don't even
very,
realize what you're doing.
that's right.
Yes, that's correct.
And that's one of the things that I find very appealing about some of the stuff we've been talking about is it focuses on um, doing it in the moment for the right reasons, as opposed to the downstream impact that you can't control that, because we're in a world where it's like so difficult to imagine what this one action is going to do, and to say all that you can do is come at that from the right sense of duty, and that's all that you can do, is such a nice way to sort of say we can't handle the complexity that is what happens after we act. And so best to just consider what goes into that action, and then what will be.
That's right. You at least you know that I'm putting in my best, my
Right,
honest best. But
right,
what is that honest best contributing eventually is far removed. We never know.
right.
That is very true. That's the society we live in today. The whole world does not, I would say the entire world does not follow any of the things that ideally should have been there. And that is why we live in a chaos or in the problems or in wars or in all these things because we don't want to follow it. The obvious thing is the selfishness or the other things that are there, which are opposite of what we talk about when we say that do it for the community or nature or world. That is totally removed. So when the whole purpose is my personal self-interest or my company's interest or my billions and millions, then everything is away is gone.
Hmm.
You see, there is a very famous poem in Hindi which says that if there was one millionaire who became a millionaire, he made a million poor people. Otherwise, he would not become a millionaire.
Right.
That is the reality of our lives today.
And unfortunately, he never stops doing that.
No, he
He's
will never
never
stop.
satisfied.
Hmm.
No, there'll be another man. He'll make his next million and then the third million. There'll be
Hmm.
second man, fourth man. That's how it
Yeah,
is.
yeah, it's interesting when that becomes your pursuit. when that's the goal in and of itself, then you're stuck because there doesn't end. There's no end to
There's no end. There's no
There's no
end
end.
to lust. There's no
right.
end to
Yes.
lust.
Yeah, so you're not even after what the money can get you. You're after it in and of itself as a thing, as an entity, and um, that's a when it's numbers, it can literally go up forever. It's like we're talking about numbers on a computer screen at this point. Um, as long as we can think of it, they can go that high. So
That's true. My wife used to put it very succinctly that, are you buying this shirt because you need to look decent in the society when you go out to your office or whatever? Are you buying to show off?
mm,
If it's a show off, don't buy it. Very simply, she would put it to me all my life. It's okay. You have to be in a social fabric. You need to look good. You need to look decent because everybody has to look decent. But don't do it because you need to show off.
right.
Well,
Yeah,
show off is sin. That's what she would say.
yeah, there's utility in looking good and having a good appearance, but beyond the utility is vanity, right?
That's good.
Yeah.
That's how we thought. That's how the thinking is. Okay, we'll meet next week.
Yes.
Next
Wonderful.
Friday is okay.
Yep.
After that, Friday 26th will be my eye thing. So we'll figure out a date when we talk next Friday.
Sounds good. Thank you.
All right. Take
Thank
care,
you.
everybody.
Thank you very
And
much.
let's get together Friday next.
Bye.
Sure.
Bye bye.